Bloodlands Overpower, Blood Surge, but also Blight Summoner with Mendeln are going to be some of the top tier Necromancer builds, especially when it comes down to leveling from 1 to 100 and being able to tackle any endgame content, including Vampiric Powers, aspects, stats, Paragon boards, everything. Let's go. First, Bloodlands Necromancer, which get incredibly buff, and some things are vastly different to the old Bloodlands Necromancer here. First, we're using Hemorrhage to make bonus blood orbs, and we'll come to that later why it's so important. Followed up with Acolyte's Hemorrhage for more attack speed while healthy. Then we're actually maxing out Bloodlands point-wise. You didn't used to do that because your weapon damage, max damage didn't really scale with Overpower correctly. These things get changed in Season 2. We're going for Supernatural Bloodlands for more Overpowers, and we're also boosting Imperfectly Balanced on Bloodlands. Costs a little bit more essence, does vastly more damage, and one single point in Hood Flesh. We're not really interacting with corpses with this one. Now you might be confused, no Blood Mist? Yes, no Blood Mist. We'll get to that with the Vampiric Powers. But here we're going for Bone Prison. Bone Prison is so good for the Bloodlands build, especially tier 100s, to keep the enemies just off you, but it also does make enemies permanently vulnerable, which is really interesting. And yes, there's also no corpse explosion needed here, especially because we don't have the auto explosion heart anymore, which puts away Fueled by Death. That is a multiplier we're missing, but we got other multipliers, so that is fine. Still playing the Crapify with a cooldown reduction, and we really do need that. Also for the amplified damage, bonus damage with the curse, and damage to distant enemies. And then Corpse Tendrils for blood orbs. And yes, we don't need vulnerable because we have that on top here with the Bone Prison. And the blood skills are different now. First, we get 30% more healing from all sources, which is insane. And we'll need it so much for the new Rathmas Vigor. Then we have a 6% chance with a lucky hit to spawn blood orbs that can only occur every 4 seconds, which is completely fine because one bonus blood orb every 4 seconds is mental. With the Tides of Blood for bonus overpower damage, with bonus damage on your skills in general, and then also Drain Vitality now scales with your maximum life. You still don't really need Drain Vitality because we fortify with blood orbs. It doesn't hurt to have a point in here. Now we do also have points in Bone Spirit, but we're never going to cast Bone Spirit, and that Bone Spirit will also give us essence back, so we really never run out, and we don't have these issues versus bosses where we kind of get essence starved. Not happening. Now add Blood Wave on top of that with Blood Wave slowing and Blood Wave making blood orbs, and yes, we'll spawn 3 of that to have the ultimate amount of blood orbs. Bonus attack speed, yes, and they buffed this. It's only 2 instead of 4 seconds now to trigger. And then obviously Memento Mori and Standalone for the damage reduction and the bonus on our sacrificial aspect, plus the new Rathmas Vigor, which still does the standard overpower, but now this timer is reduced by 2 seconds each time blood orbs heal or overheal you for an amount greater than or equal to your base life. And that is so easy to achieve with Gruesome Mending and also the aspects we're playing. Because here we're talking Quill. Bloodlands will consume blood orbs to also conjure lances from them. Each additional blood lance deals percentage of normal damage and prioritizes targeting unlanced enemies. Therefore, every blood orb we create, everything we make, hemorrhaging and so on, gets consumed and then spawns more blood lances, fortifying us, giving us essence, reducing cooldowns, and also making us Rathmas Vigor more for more overpower. And yes, that blood orb consumption works with a Blood Artisan's Cuirass. And the Blood Arsenal Cuirass spawns Bone Spirits that give us essence back and that do incredible damage. And now the Blood Arsenal's Cuirass also has maximum life on it. Fantastic. Plus damage for 4 seconds after picking up a Blood Orb. The best part about the Blood Arsenal's Cuirass, we can just farm it by killing Grigor. And Grigor can simply be spawned by doing Hell Tides. Might also just kill Lord Zir, which also drops the Blood Arsenal's Cuirass. And for that, we'll just have to do World Bosses and Legion events. Could be simpler. Now we're also playing the aspect of the Potent Blood. While healthy, blood orbs grant 10 to 20 essence, insane. Followed up with blood orbs reduce ultimate cooldown, so we have the blood wave more often, more blood orbs, more pushing back, more damage. The blood wave can also overpower more often, especially with our Vampiric Powers. And the new Rathmas Vigor. Then aspect of the Rathmas Chosen, so we get attack speed with our overpowers, and this should be 100% up nowadays with all the overpower we're going to be dealing. Tidal aspect for shooting out the blood waves more often, 3 times in total. Then the aspect of the Grasping Veins, because yes, Critical Strike now works with overpower, so it wouldn't hurt to have a bit more crit chance as well going on. And then Disobedience to make you just a little bit more tanky. If the Blood Artisan's Cuirass is unique, we would also go for Flicker Step as the boots, and the Flicker Step does each enemy you evade through reduces your active ultimate cooldown by 2 to 4 seconds up to 10 seconds, making Blood Wave even more, and we evade through enemies easily with our Vampiric Powers, getting to that in a second. Then also T-Bald's Will, you deal 20 to 40% increased damage while unstoppable and for 4 seconds after. That ties into hand with Flicker Step, Vampiric Power, and when you become unstoppable, gain 50 of your primary resource to always have enough resource. Now, T-Bald's Will and Flicker Step are both just simply dropping in the world and also from Durial. And for Durial, we just simply have to kill Gregor, Helltides, Whispers for Varshan, and then we can do Durial with your friends alone, and you will get these over time. Until then, you have 2 free slots to put in whatever you feel like. Aspect of Might, basic skills ground damage reduction for 2 seconds, not bad. Also, the Ghost Walker's aspects on your boots, while unstoppable and for 4 seconds after, you gain increased movement speed and can move freely through enemies. That works perfectly well now tied with our Vampiric Powers. Before we get to the Vampiric Powers though, Book of the Dead. We sacrifice our warriors for bonus critical strike chance, but that might also go for you gain 15% non-physical resistance because non-physical resistance finally works. Maybe that bit better. Also, we're going for Skeleton Mages for the overpower. That's not 40% anymore. That's 25%. It's still super good. And for the 10% max life on the Golem. Now, the first one is obvious. That's Blood Boil. When your core skills overpower an enemy, you spawn 3 volatile blood drops. Collecting a blood drop causes it to explode, dealing 60% physical damage around you. Every 20 seconds, your next skill is guaranteed overpower. Every 20 seconds, every 12 seconds, every 6 cast. Standard overpowers in between. And then the timer reduction on Rathmas Vigor anyways with Blood Orbs. We're just going to never not overpower. This goes together with Hemomancy. Your attacks deal 80% of your maximum life as physical damage to nearby enemies. This can only occur once every 4 seconds. You get a bonus damage boost. And you heal for 1% of your maximum life for each enemy damaged this way. Pair this with Undying. Casting skills heals you for 3% life. Double this bonus while below 50%. And the interesting part about Undying is that that is also higher by 30% again. So even more heal, constantly overhealing. Prey on the Weak, you deal 16% increased damage to vulnerable enemies. Enemies are vulnerable while affected by Vampiric Curse from your other Vampiric Powers, which has them permanently vulnerable also with Bone Prison, so we have a free 16% damage boost continuously. And then Metamorphosis. When you evade, we turn into a cloud of bats, becoming unstoppable for 4 seconds. Enemies along your path take 160% physical damage and are inflicted by Vampiric Curse. Now we can Vampiric Curse enemies. They will get vulnerable. When they're Vampiric Cursed and die, we gather souls, and when we use our skills, the souls blast out to kill enemies. Plus, T-Bald's Will, you deal increased damage while unstoppable and for 4 seconds after. So we evade, turn into bats, Vampiric Cursed enemies, get bonus damage against vulnerable and bonus damage in general. Then T-Bald's Will gives us 40% bonus damage and resource that we can straight away use. Plus Flicker Step as we dash through will also give us the cooldown reduction on our ultimate to then straight up be able to cast a Blood Wave, triple cast, with the bonus damage of T-Bald's Will, the bonus damage against cursed enemies and everything, stacking nicely up. For the Paragon board, and there's a link in the description below, so we'll mostly go over the glyphs. We're going to focus on intelligence as much as we can, and also we'll start with a Blood Drinker glyph that gives us Blood Orbs fortify you for 6.7% of your maximum life. Fantastic. And magic nodes into range get boosted as well. Now, I would like to take the bonus here, but more important is the damage. And you definitely do want to make sure to take every maximum life on the way, but also the resistance to all elements at this point. The next board is going to be the Bloodbath board, which is now all overpowered attacks deal 35% increased overpower damage. Not all guaranteed overpower attacks, every single overpower. And here it's important to also higher your healing received, to go for the control glyph, that is damage versus crowd controlled enemies, and then damage while fortified. Here we have damage while fortified plus max life. Here it's damage reduction but also resistance to all elements, then damage and fortified generation plus damage while healthy and overpowered damage, which travels right into the Blood Begets board for bonus multiplicative damage when picking up Blood Orbs, which also ties in nicely with overpower right now. Didn't really used to work before 100%, but now should. And that's where we're going for all damage when picking up Blood Orbs, overpower damage, damage when picking up Blood Orbs, overpower damage. Plus here, the Imbiber glyph and another 35 willpower to increase our damage while healthy. which brings us then upwards and beyond into the Scent of Death board, where we get damage reduction with 2 corpses nearby, and with no corpses nearby, we do more damage. But more important is here, we're going for the Dominate Glyph for the overpower, and we get 54 willpower. So this one's going to scale up nicely. Damage to injured enemies, why not? Bonus armor doesn't hurt as well. And then finally, we travel to the right side into the Bone Graft board. Yes, Bone Graft. And here it's just for the Sacrificial Glyph. That is bonus to magic nodes, granting us even more resistance. Yes, all the way resistance and some more intelligence for damage. And here it's another 8% life plus, and then it's actually 8%, 10%, 12% in total max life plus. Now, I would like to take this note, but I don't really have any more points left because I've taken everything to max this out and do 10% increased damage while you have no active minions. When it comes down to stats on the items, you can click on the respective one. But what we're looking for is max life, max life, max life, max life. Just everything that can have max life goes for max life. Essence cost reduction is fantastic as well. And overpower damage everywhere where overpower damage is available. But the link in the description has everything detailed for you to click on. Now the second build will be the Blood Surge Summoner. And then we also have a Blight Mendeln Summoner for you as well. Blood Surge Summoner, incredible. I know some people are saying Blood Surge is dead, but I highly want to disagree with that. And that's because of unique combinations of Vampiric Powers and other fun. We're starting with Hemorrhage again into Acolyte's Hemorrhage for the bonus attack speed and the Blood Orbs. Then we're maxing out Blood Surge. Again, it's good to put all the 5 points in. And yes, also boost Imperfectly Balanced and get 5 Blood Surges into Overpower. This time, we're actually using Blood Mist. We didn't need Blood Mist in the Bloodlands build because we get the evade into the Metamorphosis, but Blood Mist is actually damage here as well. Now, we can make the Blood Mist also fortify us or make a corpse. The corpse can be sometimes more useful when it comes down to always having a corpse for corpse tendrils. So it's worth a thought to flick that over. We boost our skeletal warriors because yes, we're using warriors and mages. It's going to be fantastic. Don't worry, the overpower bonus got nerfed. And that's fueled by death for the bonus damage as we summon our skeletons for another 9% damage boost. That's really nice. Damage reduction from close and damage to close enemies. Amplify is still being used. And the interesting part is we have Decrepify, but we're not going to put it in our skill bar because we're using it different, which is going to be actually really fantastic. Boost the mages, boost all your blood skills again. Yes, also the super overheal. Make even more blood orbs, and no, we're not going to be going here for vulnerable. We do vulnerable different. Now, this is new in this build. I've never played Blood Wave before, but I think we can make Blood Wave work in this build. It's going to be interesting to see how well that plays out. Plus Inspiring Leader and also 1 point in death defense for a little bit more resistance to all elements and armor for the minions. And then last but not least, Rathamus Vigor. Now, Book of the Dead first and then the rest. We get our Reapers, we have our Skeletal Cold Mages giving us Essence, and then we also sacrifice the Golem again. And yes, we get the Death Speaker's Pendant here for the bonus Blood Mini Novas that goes around all our minions. The best part here is this one we can get so early, so easy. Echo of Varshan and also Grigor the Galvanic Saint for doing Helltides and Whispers. Both can drop the Death Speaker's Pendant. And Varshan on top of that can also drop the Mother's Embrace, which we also need. Yes, I'll link these, by the way, in the description below for you to have them always up. Now, as we said, Mother's Embrace. We'll also need this one because it get buffed. It's now 4 enemies and a refund of 40%. 40% was there, but 1 enemy less to actually refund your core skills essence is incredible. Pair this together now with the Bloodbath aspects for the bonus Novas to Nova even more around your minions with Mother's Embrace. Fantastic. Aspect of Untimely Death. If we're overhealing with a bonus heal and all the blood orbs we're having, we do more damage on our next overpowers. Plus Rathamus Chosen for all the attack speed, and due to all the overpowers we're doing, we should be having constantly the attack speed bonus up with the Blood Boil aspect later on for even more overpowers. Which brings us to the Vicious aspect for more Skeletal Mages and Warriors, and also the Disobedience for more armor. Now we have the Tidal aspect for more Blood Waves, so we're able to shoot more Blood Waves out. And as you notice, we don't actually have the Decrepify in our bar. That is because we're using Decrepify with the Blood Moon Breaches. Your minions have a 3 to 7% chance to curse enemies. Yes, they can apply a curse. Enemies affected by at least one of your curses take 70% increased overpower damage from you. Interesting aspect here is it should be your corruption they apply for bonus cooldown reduction. That's 11 times 7% the chance. And also your Metamorphosis turns you into a bat when you evade and applies Vampiric Curse. And it says here, enemies affected by at least one of your curses. Vampiric Curse is one of my curses. Decrepify is one of my curses. So it should technically work with this if we're reading it the right way. The Blood Moon Breaches can be had from Duriel. Duriel can also drop a bunch of other interesting stuff, and he's for killing Echo of Warshin and Grigor the Galvanic Saint to then get the materials for Duriel summoning. It'd be easier, right? You could also put Blood Mist out of your bar because of Metamorphosis, of being able to turn into bats and get unstoppable for the Decrepify curse until you have the Blood Moon Breaches. That being said, Blood Mist is also really nice for overpower damage. Then again, we do have the Hemorrhage to make all the Blood Orbs to then reduce the overpower kind of cooldown reduction to just continuously overpower with Blood Surge and never run out of Essence, because Essence was always a problem of this build. Now with the minions, with Blood Boil for even more overpowers and even more damage and the volatile blood drops that explode, into Hemomancy for the 80% damage explosion around you that also heals you, followed up by, now the most interesting one, Feed the Coven, Lucky Hit, and that Lucky Hit works with every single Blood Nova around every single minion. Conjuration, Companion, Minion, and Bat Familiar attacks have up to a 60% chance to restore 10 primary resource to you and increase your damage by 10%. 10 primary resource doesn't sound a lot, but we have 11 minions. We have 11 minions that each has a Blood Surge around them, and each Blood Surge has the Novas out, and then you have the tidal waves as well. And you can continue to apply the Decrepify curses, and all of this with the Grasping Veins together has a chance to then trigger a Lucky Hit to restore essence to you. Interesting. Metamorphosis to turn you into a bat, leap, and apply Vampiric curses, and then prey on the weak, because that would be enemies affected by Vampiric curse are vulnerable, and you do more damage to vulnerable enemies. So you essentially dash in, curse everyone would take more damage, then you Blood Surge like crazy, then you dash again to curse everyone, rinse and repeat, right? And you always do the bonus damage, and it's fantastic because you can't take damage and your minions continuously heal. Now slot rubies everywhere, and for your amulets and rings, it would be diamonds for the elemental resistances, most likely. For stats, it's going to be health, health, and health. Also overpower damage everywhere, and essence cost reduction if you can find it. Doesn't hurt if you could pick up a Lucky Hit on the left or the right, but I wouldn't put a main focus on that. Blood Summoner Paragon is a wee bit different to the Bloodlands. We're still going to go for the control early on and try to pick as many max life nodes as possible, obviously. Then there's also the Bloodbath board with the Blood Drinker glyph this time, so Blood Drinker and control swapped around. Here, Blood Drinker would now boost that you get even more healing and would do more damage while fortified. Doesn't hurt to actually have it there, so it kind of works nicely. We're going to the right side into the Collator Dead Razor to make our minions more tanky, but with a new addition of Blood Orbs healing minions permanently, it might not be necessary anymore to do this at all. This is an experiment and we'll see if it's needed or not. I'll keep you updated. While we then go upwards into the Blood Begets board, and we're essentially taking the maximum life on the left side. We're going to go over the damage, and we're going to put the Imbiber glyph in here. And as we're traveling further up into the Send of Death board, that is then going to be Dominate to have like really 54 willpower. So the double that is actually needed, that's going to be so much bonus overpower damage. It's going to be crazy. Blight, Mendeln, Summoner, and some things changed here as well, including that we could technically get rid of Blood Mist completely. Now just begin with the standard Bone Splinters and Enhanced Bone Splinters, but that is essentially until you get Essence Independent and you don't need them anymore. We're going to be pumping Blight and also 5 points in Blight because damage over time get kind of like a little bit boosted and it's going to be more interesting. Plus you and your minions deal 15% increased damage to enemies within Blight. Followed up by Hued Flesh to make corpses. We have our Corpse Explosion on 5 as well, together with Blighted Corpse Explosion. 1 point in Blood Mist, but again, we might phase out Blood Mist. We'll talk about that in a second. Buff your Skeletal Warriors, have your Bone Prison make everything vulnerable. Then also Fueled by Death for the bonus damage, distance enemies, amplify damage, and as well Decrepify with the Decrepify cooldown reduction. Which brings us now here into boosting every shadow aspect, Crippling Shadow, Gloom, and all the things. Plus Plague Corpse Tendrils making things vulnerable. Technically, you don't need that. You could make Blood Orbs, but again, we have everything vulnerable again. Then Blood Orbs at this point are actually healing our minions. So the more Blood Orbs we make, the more minions we heal. So it could be interesting to just put Blood Orbs in here that we just have a continuous source of healing our minions. And 1 single point into Necrotic Carapace because it never hurts we're making corpses. Then we have 3 points in Inspiring Leader, and we actually don't dabble with any ultimate skills right now. Yes. And then last but not least, Shadow Blight. And Shadow Blight right now is the same. Plus, Shadow Blight's damage is increased by 100% of your shadow damage over time bonus. Huh. Interesting. For the Book of the Dead, we have our Skeletal Reapers together with mages, and then sacrifice the Golem for bonus increased critical strike damage. Yes, they double with critical strike, but it doesn't hurt to still max it out here. Then as our aspects, we're playing the Ring of Mendeln, and that one is easiest to get as well. You just have to kill the Beast of Ice, and that's for tier 21 and beyond Nightmare Dungeons. Man, you get so easy tier 4, then tier 21 and beyond Nightmare Dungeons, and you get your Ring of Mendeln just presented to you in no time. Level 70, you should have it easy. Blighted Aspect for bonus overall damage as your Shadow Blight key passive stacked. Aspect of Decay for even more Shadow Blight key passive damage. With the Grasping Veins, still, it's just too good to not play it. And then Plunging Darkness for your Bone Prison to have the Darkness aspect also around it, to then trigger like the Lucky Hit together with the Ring of Mendeln continuously. We can play the Hell from below to higher our Corpse Explosion damage because that is part of our damage, so why would we not? And then the Blood Moon Breaches here as with the other build for applying our curse, so we don't actually have to play Decrepify anymore. The bonus of overpowered damage is useless in this case, and here is the consideration. The only reason I play the Blood Moon Breaches is so I don't have to have Decrepify on my skill bar, because I hate having Decrepify on my skill bar. Realistically, we should probably get rid of Blood Mist because we have Metamorphosis and we don't need Blood Mist anymore. Therefore, I mean, it might be better to just swap this out for the Decrepify and then essentially have our hands open for Hardening Bones for more damage reduction on our minions, or the aspect of the Embalmer to just heal me and my minions as we make more Blood Orbs, because my minions again continues to heal with Blood Orbs, and I do heal with Blood Orbs obviously too. Disobedience for more armor, then Warriors and Warriors again. Now the weapon would have damage over time, the armor would have rubies, and then again you would have diamonds on your jewelry. And for our Vampiric Powers, we're looking for you deal 60% increased damage over time to enemies that are moving or affected by Vampiric Curse. Metamorphosis to apply, set Vampiric Curse. Sanguine Brace, when you kill an enemy, fortify for 6% of your base life. While you have more fortify than half of your maximum life, you gain 8% critical strike chance. Perfectly with Ring of Mendeln for maximum critical strikes. Undying for casting skills, heals you for 3% of your life. We continuously heal and never run out of heal and always have enough heal, especially against someone like Lilith. She hits us in between. And then Prey on the Weak, you deal 60% increased damage to vulnerable enemies. That would be with the Bone Prison and also with the Corpse Tendrils to potentially have them always vulnerable, and the curse that we apply with Metamorphosis, plus the Breaches if we would then play the Breaches. It's just nice to see that Blood Mist can go. For the Paragon board, we're talking about having the control glyph in the beginning and maxing out on intelligence. And yes, here in this case, you want to max out on intelligence as much as you can throughout the board, because we'll actually slap on Wither, and Wither now scales with intelligence, which is insane. Your shadow damage over time effects have a 5% chance to deal 50% bonus damage each time they deal damage. And this chance is increased by 1%, and bonus damage is increased by 4% for each 40 intelligence you have. And it should be easy to get like 700-800 intelligence in the long run to continuously trigger even more bonus damage and max that out. Which gets followed up here by the Send of Death board together with the Imbiber glyph for damage while healthy, because you're supposedly always healthy. Into the Cult Leader board with the Dead Razor glyph for the damage reduction on your minions. Followed up with the Wither board into Darkness glyph, and then max out Darkness as much as you can. Also, we're taking here damage to Shadow Dot enemies, damage to elites, and also a little bit of damage reduction from enemies that are affected by Shadow Dot. Into the Flesh Eater board for the incredible damage multiplier. We're still playing the Essence glyph here currently. We might go over to boosting the damage of our corpse skills though, but the Essence glyph is just fantastic to have, and it's going to be intriguing to see how the new scaling really works out damage-wise now, and if it's worth it, because we're still trying to do the maximum Mendeln critical strikes. Now, Infinimist and Tempest Necromancers will follow, and they're already made, but I see Infinimist more as a late game build than a leveling build. I can't wait to show you the new findings there. If you want to have a peek at how they performed in Season 1, which really will translate well into Season 2, check it out.